Here I have Queen 3 offsuit on the button, a little wide.
Maybe we'll get lucky.
There's a raise to $12 from late position, and I, along with two others, make the call, and we're 4 ways to a flop of Queen, Queen, King. We make trips right on the flop. It checks the original raiser, who now bets $25. I, of course, make the call with my trip queens. I could raise here, but I figure I'm likely way ahead, and I don't want to scare anybody off. We get one caller, and we're 3 ways to the turn of the Queen of Clubs. Holy crap, we just turned this crap hand into quads. Now, how do I best play this? First to act checks. The original aggressor now checks, and I think the best option here is to check as well as to not set off any alarm bells. The river is the 5 of diamonds, total brick, and again it checks to the aggressor, who now bets $50. I decide to go for it all here, and I go all in with whatever I had left, which looks to be about $97 effective. I table my Queen 3 offsuit, and my opponent shows pocket aces for the full house, but my quad queens prevail. A rare win in a dismal session. Okay, in this hand, I am in the under the gun straddle for $6 and look down at Jack of Spades, Ace, 8 of Hearts. Since I am on tilt, of course, defend my straddle with my terrible hand and call the $30 raise to see a flop. I have no choice. Bet now, make a hand later. The flop comes Queen of Clubs, 2 of Hearts, 8 of Diamonds. I check next to act checks, and the original raiser C bets for $25. We both call the $25 and are still 3 ways to return, which falls the 4 of Hearts. I check, the player to my left checks, and the original aggressor continues his betting by going all in for about $132. I fold and just punted away another $55. Why do I do this? Middle pair on the flop with an okay kicker. Looking back on this, I really should have folded this pre-flop.
Don't look back.
I'm in the cutoff, and I peel back Ace of Hearts, 10 of Clubs. There are a few limpers, and I raise it up to $10, and I get 2 callers. The flop comes 10 of Spades, King of Diamonds, Queen of Diamonds. I have bottom pair, top kicker on a very coordinated board with a gut shot to Broadway. Not terrible, but I'm going to need a non-diamond jack to come out for me to feel like I can actually win this hand. Both players check to me, and I check back since it seems like no one actually hit this board, which I find hard to believe. But okay, let's see a free card, which falls exactly what I needed. The Jack of Spades. If we can avoid another diamond on the river, I'm sure I'm good here. So when it checks to me again, I feel like any bet will just make my opponents fold, and I really want them to take a stab at this point so I can raise them. So we see another free card, and the 2 of Hearts peels off on the river. Total brick, so now I know I have the best hand here. I'm not letting this check through again, so this time when it checks to me, I just go small to see if I can get a little more value from one of these other 2 players, and I bet $15. I get 1 caller, and of course we're good, but such a small pot really doesn't help my cause at this point. It's nice to win, and it's nice to make Broadway, but I wish we had been playing for a little more than $62. Oh well. My opponent had pocket 3s, so yeah, all the checking made sense, and I'm pretty sure I had to let him get to the river and a showdown to get max value like I did. In this hand, I am under the gun and look down at pocket queens. Great hand, but being under the gun, I can't raise too high if I want to get some action. I would much prefer this hand in middle or late position, but that was not to be. Either way, I raise it to $15 and get 4 callers. Not at all what I was looking for, but okay.
We should not have made this bargain.
Let's see what we can do with this hand out of position in multi-way. The flop comes 9 of Spades, 8 of Hearts, 5 of Clubs. Pretty good flop, though a bit connected, and 9-8 is certainly a combo someone would be holding along with pocket 8s, 9s, 5s, so I'm going to need to proceed cautiously here. The player on my left is very young, just turned 18 years old, has never played poker outside of home games, he told me. Super nice kid, we chatted throughout the night. But I did notice he was quite aggressive at times, and not always with the greatest hands, so he did tend to bluff a lot, and try to get people off their hands with worse hand. Kudos to him, he was successful a lot of the time. He will be our main villain in this hand. The first 2 players to act check to me, and I see bet for $20. The kid next to me calls the $20, and 1 other player calls, so we're now 3 ways to the turn of the board pairing 8 of Clubs. Definitely not what I wanted to see in this spot. So I slow down. After the first to act checks, I check as well, and Billy the kid here on my left, of course, fires out for $55, right on cue. I perceive this as being one of those aggression plays of his where he connected with the board, he sees checking ahead of him as weakness, and he takes a stab at the pot. Middle position folds, and I make the call. If he had 8-9 and just boated up, so be it. The river is the 10 of hearts, making the board even more connected. Queen Jack now gets there, but I have blockers to that. 6-7 gets there. All the flushes miss though, and I already mentioned my read on Billy the Kid, so I'm still pretty sure I'm good here with a better 2 pair if he has maybe 10-9 or something like that. As long as he doesn't have an 8, I should be able to take this one down. So I check to him, and he thinks it over for a bit. I know he's going to bet, but how much? He then fires out for a pretty value-y $60 into a $330 pot. If he truly thought he was good, I think he'd go larger. Or if he was really going to bluff at it, I think he'd also go larger. This just seems like an amount he was hoping I would fold to by being scared off by the connected and paired board. Which I totally was, by the way. But $60 to win a pot of $550 with a 10 high board and my 2 pair, I have to call. Which I do. And he turns over 9-10 offsuit for 2 pair, and I turn over my pocket queens for a better 2 pair, and I scoop a nice $550 pot. Alright, slowly making a comeback now. I'm in the small blind and look down at pocket 7s. Now, for those who have watched my previous vlog where I had pocket 7s in my very first hand, folded to a large preflop bet, and missed out on the quads against Ace King, I can tell you every time I look down at pocket 7s now, I get flashbacks to that hand and what could have been.
Let the past die.
Terrible, I know. But it's how I feel, so now every time I get pocket 7s, I will pretty much call any preflop bet, just to make sure. FOMO? Not good for a poker player. But it folds around to me and I raise it up to $15 and get 3 callers. Alright, here we go. Flop comes out, 3-8 queen rainbow. Okay, not terrible for my 7s, but 2 over cards is not making me feel super awesome. But I could be good here. Being the original raiser, I see bet for $20 to see where I'm at in the hand. Billy the Kid folds, and the other 2 players call pretty quickly, so 3 of us continue. The turn is another queen. Not my favorite card at all. I now check, being first to act. Second to act also checks, and the position player bets out for $75 into a pot of $120, which is quite strong. I thought for a moment that he was maybe just using his position as last to act to win the pot, but with 2 overs to my 7s and those 2 queens, I just don't think I'm good here anymore, so I fold to protect my stack. The other player folds as well. Was this maybe a little nitty? Probably. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This last one will be a quick one. I have ace-3 offsuit in the cutoff position and limp in with just about everyone else, probably 6 players. It checks around on the flop and then again on the turn until I throw $15 out. A few players fold and I end up losing to a rivered flush with 4 diamonds on the board against my 2 pair. You can't win them all. After this hand, I played for another probably 2 hours or so, when I should not have. I was chasing my losses and ended up losing about $1,000 that night. I made some dumb decisions, one of which was continuing to play when it just didn't seem to be my night, and I could have cut my losses. But no, I kept going and pushing, and it cost me in the end. I really need to get better at asking for a table change when the table gets stale, or there's no action, or if I'm just not getting good cards. And I also really need to be better at leaving when it's just not my night, rather than trying to chase my losses like I do.
This is not how I thought this day was going to go.
Hey everyone. So you may have noticed I took a little bit of time off between posting vlogs. I had a little bit of travel to do for work. In fact, I had to fly to Germany for a week, and then I got to visit my family over there over the weekend. But while I was there, I played some poker. Since I've never actually played in Europe before, and I was really curious to see what the casinos were like and how the Euros play poker. Before my trip, I had emailed both of the casinos I planned on playing at to see if they would allow me to record my sessions for my vlog. The one place, the much larger, more prominent casino I played at, which was the second place I played at, called the Spielbank in Wiesbaden, immediately wrote back and said flat out no pictures, no video recordings. In fact, you can't even have your phone out at the table at all at any point in time, and they were very adamant about that. The other place I played at, it actually never got back to me, so I maybe could have recorded there, but I wasn't going to chance it. I didn't really want to ask. I was there on a Wednesday night, so unfortunately I don't have any footage from these sessions, I do have some stock photography I'm going to use to kind of supplement what I'm saying here, so you guys aren't constantly looking at me in this section of the video. But let me tell you, it's a whole different ball game over there. I guess Euros here in the US have a bit of a reputation for being hyper aggressive in their playing style, right? They put big bets out there with sometimes very little in the way of a hand. So the first night I went to this pretty small casino in a place called Bad Oeynhausen. They had a €5 cover charge to get in. They had about 3 roulette tables, a blackjack table, a UTH table, and then I think about 6 poker tables, but only one was open. Again, it was a Wednesday night. I played in a 1-3 game, but it played way bigger. There was one maniac at the table who kept raising to €50 no matter what position he was in, no matter what cards he had. He was going all in for 200, 300, €500 with things like Queen 5 offsuit. Occasionally he would hit, which frustrated everybody at the table, but many times he didn't. I mean, it was just nuts. The guys that I played with seemed to be a group of guys that all knew each other and played just about every night together. I was very unsuccessful, but I had a really good time nonetheless. The second place I went to, called the Spielbank in Wiesbaden, was very different. This felt like a very upscale Monte Carlo style casino. Though not super big again, a few roulette tables, some blackjack tables, a separate building with a bunch of slot machines. And I went on a Saturday night. They had about 8 poker tables running and were opening more as more people poured in. Just about everybody there was dressed to the nines. I mean, you had people in business suits, you had sparkly dresses for the ladies, you had evening cocktail wear. It was pretty cool. Actually, it was a nice place. Very old school feeling, beautiful old ballroom that felt a little bit like you were sitting in a castle. The chips were absolute trash, though. They're really slick. They're small in circumference, super lightweight. I mean, it felt like you couldn't even feel them in your hand. And they're rounded on the top, so they don't stack well. I kept bumping my stacks with my arms, and the chips would go all over the place. Really, really frustrating. But the poker, oh my God, the poker. Listen, it's a little weird to have the lowest stakes game be 2-4 to begin with, right? And the table I was seated at was a 2-4-8, which they referred to as small, middle, and big blind. But then you have a minimum buy-in of around €100, I think was the minimum, but no cap. So you could buy in for 100, 200, 300, or €100,000 if you wanted to. And when I sat down, I bought in for €1,000, which I lost pretty quickly. But another guy had about 7,000 in front of him. So the game plays huge. There were seldom limp pots. The average raise was between €24 and €50 in a 2-4-8 game. And the pots were all upwards of €600. I mean, it was just ridiculous action. And these guys played any 2 cards, pretty much. I mean, I saw a guy show down with bottom pair with Queen 5 offsuit and win pots worth thousands of euros with just a pair of 5s, and he beat like a pair of 3s or something. It was ridiculous. Personally, I really struggled to figure out how to play with these guys, so I burned through my first 1,000 pretty quickly. I bought back in for another 1,000 and ran that up to around €2,400 within about an hour. So I finally got a few good hands. I was really card dead in the beginning, but got a few good hands. I figured out how a couple of these guys played, but still was lucky to walk out of there up given the action. It was absolutely nuts. I'm not sure I would choose to go back there. Those games were a little too wild for me. Maybe it was just my table, and maybe I would try it again, maybe on a weeknight to see if it's a little less crazy rather than a Saturday night. But the experience was cool. There was a ton of action, and just experiencing these casinos was pretty awesome. So there's a little story for you. Anyway, thanks for making it to the end of this vlog. I know it was a lot of me talking, but I wanted to share my experience playing poker in Germany with you guys anyway. Sorry I didn't have any footage to share. That's unfortunate, but hopefully you enjoyed some of the stock photography and kind of get a sense for what I was talking about. Anyway, the next one will probably be back at TCH for my next vlog, most likely. So until then, be kind to one another, and may the felt be with you.